Good evening and welcome to the LGBTQ Consortium with Affinity. My name is Kim Hunt and I'm Executive Director of Affinity Community Services. And Affinity is a social justice organization that works with and on behalf of Black LGBT communities, queer youth, and allies. And we welcome you to the show today. So for the next 25 minutes, we are going to talk about the marriage equality fight here in Illinois. And we want to spend a little time talking about how to engage people of color in this fight. But before I introduce my guests, I want you to remember that this is a call-in show, so you're just as much a part of the show as we are. And the number to call is 312-738-1060. And if any questions come to you after the show, feel free to contact Affinity here. You can contact us via Twitter, our website, and also the phone number and email. And we also have a Facebook page where you can reach us and keep up to date on the things that we're doing. So joining me this evening is Keron Blair, and he is the field director of the Illinois Unites for Marriage Coalition. And Affinity is a member of that coalition along with several other organizations across the state. So welcome to the show, Keron.
Thank you.
So just to bring everybody up to speed a bit, the Illinois Senate bills SB 10, which is the Religious Freedom and Marriage Equality Bill, passed in the Senate on Valentine's Day of this year. And it's a bill that would bring the opportunity to marry to same-sex couples here in Illinois. And I want to point out, it does not require religious institutions to marry same-sex couples. So once the bill left the Senate, it went to the House, and it was assumed that the bill would pass right away. Unfortunately, that didn't happen, and in fact, the bill was never brought to the floor for a vote. And so we have regrouped, and we are continuing the fight. And I think with that previous effort, it's fair to say that that was more of a grass tops kind of effort. And there's a lot going on now with the Illinois Unites for Marriage Coalition and work across the state to bring a lot of other voices to the table. Mm-hmm. So, Keron, I'd like you to spend a little time talking about your background. Mm-hmm. And how that background feeds into your role at the coalition and what you're doing in terms of the field organizing.
Oh, wow. Well, first of all, thank you for having me. And it's been really, really great working with you and working with Affinity.
Thank you.
So I started organizing in one form or the other maybe 9 years ago or so. Mm-hmm. So I've been doing community organizing, and when I say organizing, I mean that is getting people who care about an issue to come together in order to build power to take action that makes a difference. A lot of my work happened in DC, and then I lived in the South. I lived in New Orleans for a while, and I worked on the healthcare campaign. I worked on both state and local and national wage theft campaigns. I worked on immigration issues. So, I've been doing organizing, and again, in one form or the other for some time. And about 2 years ago, I moved to Chicago to train at a place called the Midwest Academy, which is a training institute for community organizers. So my job there was to work with organizations all across the country to help them really develop organizing capacity. And I got involved with the campaign actually in February when they actually put a call out for organizers. Mm-hmm. And I wasn't able to work full-time on the campaign, but I did some volunteering for a little bit. And then when they regrouped, I reached out to folks and they said they wanted me to come on board as a field director. And so in my role, what I do is we've hired about 19 organizers. These are people who are working in districts all across the state. And what they're doing, Kim, they're talking to people and they're identifying supporters of marriage equality, and they are moving them to take action. So phone calls, signing a postcard, participating in the big march that's coming up, doing a meeting with their elected officials. So any number of ways that people who are supportive say, I want to interact with my representative, and I want to let my representative know that I am in support of marriage equality.
Very good. So let's talk about that a little more, just in terms of people of color. And just, I want folks to know how to reach the Illinois Unites for Marriage office and campaign. Here's the website information. You can find them on Facebook and Twitter as well. Lots of ways to reach out, and you can find out different ways to be helpful, and we'll talk a little bit about that too. So I want to shift gears just a little bit, but in a related fashion. The Williams Institute, which is, is a research institute that provides this wonderful demographic information on the LGBT community, they released a study last year that revealed, among other things, that just like the rest of America, the LGBT community is becoming blacker and browner, slight edge in terms of female identity, and also less affluent. And that, like in society as a whole, again, many of the couples, same-sex female couples of color, are among the poorest, in addition to transgender people, which is another show, are among the poorest in our community. And also they often have children who live under 18 years of age, still living in the household. So these are folks who are most impacted by the fact that in Illinois and many other states, marriage is not an option for their families. Those economic protections aren't there, that recognition isn't there, and all the things, the supports that families need, especially in times of need. Yet we still, in the community and outside of the community, have this notion of this marriage equality issue being a white gay man's issue. So what is the coalition doing now to kind of debunk that and to get more people of color involved?
Yeah. So it is, as you said, certainly sort of this myth, right, around whose issue it is, right? The thing we know about any kind of issue, any kind of organizing issue, is that obviously every single person it's not going to be their issue. But what we know is that there are lots of folks of color who think that marriage equality matters, and the reasons they think that vary, right? It's not a sort of monolithic reasoning.
Right.
But I think the work that we have done and are committed to doing, even at the staffing level, is making sure that we are, when I came on board, looking at who are we hiring and making sure that we have a diverse group of people working on the issue, right? We've built out, I think, a partner, with groups like Affinity and others. We're very committed to engaging and building out a coalition that reflects the diversity of the LGBT community, or of LGBT communities, right? Because even the notion that it is an LGBT community is one that is false, right? There are a lot of communities in this broader community. So I think engaging seriously with partners that represent various groups in the community and bringing them into the coalition. So we've broadened the coalition by quite a bit. We've hired staff that reflect the diversity of the community, and we're doing a lot of partnering. So just today I had a really good meeting with one of the organizations that do work in the African American community to think about how do we partner together, not just on marriage, but on the stuff that matters to these groups, right? Beyond marriage or in addition to marriage. We are convening African American clergy to talk about the role of religion and faith and to talk about how they want to engage. We're bringing together leaders in a number of communities to again talk about what does marriage mean to your community, and how do we engage your constituents. So it's I think a really participatory process, and one that has cast I think a wide net. Obviously not as wide as we always want it to be, but I think certainly wide enough to say that we have built a much more diverse coalition.
And what is the timeline that the coalition is working towards for?
So, the timeline is at this point, and I say this with all sincerity and severity, that The timeline is we're looking to have a vote in the veto session, which is a month away. I mean, the veto session starts October 22nd and runs for a few days, and then there's a break, and then we go back on November 5th through 7th. And so we have 1 month to make this happen. And so it's important that every person who supports marriage equality not only theoretically or ideologically support it, but take action that moves us closer to that. But about a month.
So there's a real sense of urgency, folks.
Yes.
A very narrow window to get this done. And I want to remind people that if they have any questions that they want to throw out, the number's 312-738-1060. I want to pick up a little bit on the notion of, casting a wider net, but also understanding that for many people, marriage may not be like a top priority for them. And we know that there are many same-sex couples that have been in committed relationships for many, many years, decades even, who don't necessarily want to be married, and but still have these beautiful relationships. Yeah. And there are also folks who have a criticism around the marriage movement, that a lot of resources are being pumped into this at the expense of other things that are equally important, or in some views more so. So how do you engage those folks, and what do you say to those folks when that comes up?
The question that you asked takes me back to a meeting that we had a couple of weeks ago with folks on the South Side, actually, talking about marriage. And when asked, why marriage? In light of all of what else is going on, why marriage? And people, as I said then and I say now, this is not me. This is the text, right? This is people. This is people's own testimony that marriage matters in light of everything else, because it is, for some people, fundamentally about equality. It's about ensuring that people, irrespective of their identity and what their family looks like, are treated equally under the law. Yeah. And then for some people, it's about the recognition of being recognized as fully human, right? That somehow, if I'm in a relationship, even if I choose not to get married, that the law makes a distinction between myself and my partner and our love and our family and other forms of family. People are like, no, I want to be treated as fully human under the law. Some folks said in that meeting that it is about the expansion of civil rights. And so people hearken to that as it joins forces with this historic movement about how do we make sure that people in these United States are treated equally and fairly. And then people came back to it's about love. And it's about opportunity to love and to have family, and it's about being in a place where you can bring and celebrate in that love, right? Because what for a lot of people, what marriage is about is getting married means that you get to bring your friends and your family together, and they get to celebrate with you. And so that's the people who want marriage. And for those who don't, we come back to issues of equality, right? We come back to issues of fairness. And a lot of people I've talked to can get down with that. They can say, well, I'm not sure if it's for me. They have their criticisms. But they can come back to the central theme of, at the end of the day, love is love. Yeah. And if you live in this country, if you live in this state, and you are in a loving, committed relationship, then the same respect and reverence should be given to your relationship and to your family. And that's what people come back to.
Yeah, that says it all.
Yeah.
That says it all. You mentioned something that I know can be a sensitive issue for some Black people, and that's using the term civil rights in conjunction with marriage equality or LGBT rights in general. Are you finding, as the field organizers are doing their thing, that they're coming up against that?
So here's the thing, and the interesting thing is when we talk about how we frame this, I mean, we come back to issues of love and commitment and stability. And in my experience, Kim, I was on the phone. We have phone banks every night. Go to the website, sign up for a phone bank. but we make calls to people. And it is not, to be quite honest, it is not the organizers that raise the civil rights question. It is people that we're talking to on the phone, and they're making that comparison.
Oh, wow.
And that's why I said to you, it's me. It's not me. I'm reading from the text, right? So in the meeting that we had, it wasn't Keron and Illinois Unites lifting up civil rights. It was people in this meeting saying, this matters to me because I see it in relationship to the civil rights movement. And these are black people, black, gay, and straight people. And who am I to take from them their historical relationship, right? So I can't say to them, well, no, it's not, right? I'm like,
right.
So we're not necessarily going out there and making it a civil rights issue.
Yeah.
But the people that we're talking to, the people that we're
They're
engaging, the African American folks that we are talking to are making that relationship and making that connection. And I think for me, that's what's been powerful.
Yeah, and being in that seat, I get that. I had a talk with a constituent today who had reached out to one of her legislators, and the point was brought up, about where is this voice when we're talking about gun violence or drugs in the community or any number of other issues. And this particular constituent was like, all of that matters to me. I'm a black lesbian. I live in your district. These issues impact me. I'm raising black boys. These issues impact me. And she said something very powerful to me. She's like, these are all issues of safety and concern to me, and I cannot separate my identities. I come to this as a full person, and I think that is kind of a teachable moment for a lot of folks in the broader community, that we have these multiple identities embodied in one person, and it's impossible.
Yeah, it is impossible.
It's impossible to separate those identities and not be concerned about all those other issues as well. You mentioned phone banks. So what are some of the other things that folks can do?
Right. So the first thing is that, folks can go to our website and sign up.
And I'll show that.
Thank you. And sign up. There's a tab that says volunteer. And if you sign up there, we'll get your name. An organizer will contact you. But you can sign up to make calls with us. You can sign the online petition. We have this really great tool called the Relational Voter Program, which allows you to engage your friends and family across the state. You enter their names, we match them in our system, and you get to call them and say, I'm a supporter and I want to ask you to also take action. Folks can sign postcards. Folks can decide to go to Springfield on October 22nd to be a part of the big march
Let me show that information.
The March on Springfield is organizing. And if you live in a district and this particular issue affects you and you want to speak out, you can also sign up to meet with your representative and to let your representative know why this matters to you.
And I'd like to point out, too, that Affinity is sponsoring one of those phone banks on October 15th.
Awesome.
And that went out in our weekly download today and is on our Facebook page. I think we've tweeted it several times, but we'll get that information on our website as well, so that if people want to sign up for that phone bank, they can do that. And, of course, being a member of the coalition, we're being supportive in a number of ways. We're also going to be having a sign making party for in preparation for the March on Springfield, and that is October 19th. That also will be posted to the website because we want to have nice signs when we show up for the march,
It's going to be awesome.
It is. And we will feed you during that sign-making party. And we will also have a bus going to Springfield. So check our website for details about that, because we want everybody to get on the bus. We have a big bus. We're trying to get thousands of people to the March on Springfield. And this is a great way for you to be a part of this historic moment, honestly.
Yes.
Very historic moment, and an opportunity to bring people together in ways that they haven't been brought together before. So one of the things that I want to also talk about is, many times when the marriage movement comes into a community, thing happens, they leave. And there's after all that momentum has been built, all that, those political relationships, community relationships, and all of that, there's oftentimes not anything left.
Yeah.
And people are spent. So how is the coalition, what is the coalition going to leave behind in this fight?
And the notion of leaving behind
Leaving
stuff
behind,
is
right.
always an interesting one. So here's the thing. One of the things we hired about 20 people to work the field. And we have folks south side, west suburbs, north side, downstate, I-80. One of the questions that we asked people, even in the interview, was, what do you want to do after this? Right? Because what we were looking for are people who said, I want to be an organizer. Like I want this work of community engagement to be my work for some time.
Wow.
And so that's the first answer to your question. That the people we hired are people who, in some places, come from the communities they're working in. One of my staff people, Michael and Angie and Robert, come from the very communities that they're working in. And so we had a rigorous training program that's a part of the campaign. So these are folks who at the end of this are going to continue to be community organizers and continue to build power around other issues. The other thing, that I think as the field director I was very committed to is making sure that we're winning this by engaging people and constituents and bringing people into the fight, so that at the end of it we've won, but we've won through mobilizing volunteers and developing leaders in each of the districts that we're working in. And so when the campaign is over, those skills that people have learned, right, are transferable to other issues, right? So we're hoping to leave behind, and it's a funny phrase, but leave in place leaders and people who have volunteered on an issue campaign that can then be translated, if you will, and transported to work on other issues. And I think we're also leaving behind relationships where we're trying to bring people together. I've been a part of a number of meetings that we've pulled together where people said, oh, I never met this person or that, right? And so hoping that at the end of it, people come together to work on this, but relationships have been built that will go on beyond the work.
I think about, young people too, engaging them in this, and we're trying in multiple ways to do that. Some of it is messaging, some of it is also this other notion of, developing these skills, and some of them have a lot to share already. Having had a scholars program for the last 4 years, there's some really sharp young people in Chicago. So what are you saying and doing to engage young people in this as well?
So, we have an organizer whose job it is to work with high school and college students. And so we've identified a number of supportive high school groups and college groups, and we're bringing them into the campaign, and we're training them, and we're getting them to organize student night at the phone bank, right? So we're going to have 3 nights where it's just young people, students, not only making calls, but having discussions about why this matters, right? And so there is a sort of politicization that's happening even as they are working on this issue, right? We're getting students to organize phone banks themselves on their campuses, right? So that's the political activation. And we're working with the Illinois Safe Schools Alliance, and we're getting in relationship with the GSAs on high school campuses, and we're getting them out to be involved, right? So, I mean, again, could there be more? I think so. And, with 3 months, but we're very,
have that much time.
And we've been doing it, right? So we have an organizer working high schools, working colleges, certainly in the Chicago area, and then every college that is in a target area, we have an organizer working on those college campuses to engage students.
And that's a good point. This is a statewide effort. We kind of live in a bubble in Chicago in many ways, but this is a statewide effort, and people should be aware of that. So there's a lot going on with the marriage battle, and I want people to know that we are helping to connect with some of that information for you via our website and Facebook page. We're sharing a lot of the information on the Illinois Unites page. We're retweeting messages.
Yes.
So we're trying to, we and many, many others across the state are trying to keep as many people informed and engaged as we possibly can. So Keron, I want to thank you for spending some time with us this Friday. I told you it goes fast.
It does.
We could talk about this for hours because there's so much going on and so many people who should be involved. But thank you all for watching. Please stay engaged with the Illinois Unites for Marriage campaign. Get on the bus to go to Springfield. Check our website and you'll find all that information. And have a great Friday.